In the cold silence of an October night, there is a road that even the locals refuse to walk. They call it the Hollow Road. It stretches between the fields like a scar lined with crooked trees that seem to lean inwards, as if whispering to each other. At the very end of that road stands a house abandoned, yet never empty. The windows are broken, the roof is sunken in places, and the walls are stained with mold and time. But what frightens those who know the place is not its decay. It is the sense that someone or something waits inside. They say the last family to live there vanished in the middle of the night. Plates left on the table, doors unlocked, lamps burning until the oil ran dry. Only silence remained. And in that silence, neighbors swore they heard voices, children crying, a man screaming, a woman singing softly, though no one was inside. The house became a legend, but legends rot into myths, and myths are forgotten. Still on stormy nights, a faint light can be seen glowing through the top window. Not candlelight, not electricity, something else. A pale, steady glow like bone burning in a dark fire. One autumn evening, a traveler ignored the warnings. He was young, eager to prove himself against superstition. Carrying only a lantern, he stepped onto the hollow road. The trees seemed to twist as he passed. The air grew heavier, pressing against his chest. By the time he reached the gate, his flame was struggling, fighting against an invisible wind. He pushed the door open. The wood screamed as if in pain inside. Dust hung in the air like ash. The walls whispered as the wind crawled through unseen cracks. His lantern flickered, but he pressed on, his boots sinking into a floor soft with rot. In the parlor, he found the table, plates still arranged, forks rusted, a child's toy. A wooden horse lay on its side. He lifted it, and in that instant, the lantern went out. Darkness absolute, and in the black he heard it. A voice, a woman's lullaby, broken, distorted, as if sung underwater. Then a child's giggle, high and sharp, echoing right behind his ear. His hands trembled as he struck a match, desperate for light. When the flame bloomed, he saw them shapes, not solid, not smoke, but shadows with faces. Faces stretched too thin, eyes too wide. The woman, her lips sewn shut, still humming. The children, their mouths full of teeth too sharp, grinning. The match burned out, he screamed, but the sound never left his throat outside. The neighbors claimed they saw a brief flare of light, like lightning trapped in the house. Then nothing. The hollow road was silent again. No one ever found the traveler, only his lantern, lying at the gate, its glass cracked, its flame long dead. And on nights when the mist creeps low, people say they hear a new voice among the others. His voice, begging, screaming, forever trapped in the house beyond the hollow road. The Last Room on Ashford Lane. There is a boarding house on Ashford Lane that no longer takes guests. The doors are locked, the shutters nailed down, but the building still breathes. Locals say that if you press your ear to the walls, you can hear footsteps pacing inside. No one dares to linger, because everyone in the town knows the story of the last room. The house was once run by a widow named Mrs. Kettering. She rented rooms to travelers who needed a bed for a night or two. For years, nothing unusual happened. Then one winter, she opened the top floor to guests again. Room number 7, a room she had kept closed for decades. The first man who stayed there was a salesman. He checked in with a suitcase and a smile. By morning, he was gone. His things remained, neatly folded, his shoes by the bed, his hat on the chair. Mrs. Kettering searched the town, but no one had seen him leave. The door had been locked from the inside. Soon after, a soldier passed through and asked for a bed. He was placed in room 7. That night, neighbors heard boots stomping, a crash of glass, then silence. At dawn, the room was empty. His pack, his coat, his letters, all untouched. The bed was still warm. It kept happening. One by one, travelers vanished. Some left behind half-eaten meals. Some left their coats on the hooks. None ever left the room. Mrs. Kettering shut the place down. She told the townsfolk that the room was cursed, that it had belonged to her husband before he died. They asked how he died, but she never answered. She only wept, and then one morning, she too was gone. Her keys were found on the table. The front door was wide open. Now the house stands silent. The other rooms are dusty, their furniture draped in sheets. But room 7 is always different. The air is colder. The floorboards clean as though someone still walks them at night. One boy, foolish and daring, once crept inside on a dare. He said the walls whispered like lungs. He said he saw shapes moving in the corner. Even when the lantern was bright, he fled, and no one has entered since. still. On certain nights, the shutter of that room bangs open, though no wind stirs, and the glow of a single lamp can be seen burning faintly in the window. If you stand long enough, you might catch a shadow moving behind the glass. Those who stare too long. The bells of Daggerford. In the ruins of Daggerford stands a church that no one dares to enter. Its steeple leans like a broken bone, and the bells that once called the faithful have been silent for 100 years. Silent. Except on nights when the fog is thickest. The townsfolk swear they hear them toll, though the ropes were cut long ago. Each strike echoes through the valley, not like iron on bronze, but like bone cracking beneath the heavy hand. Some say the bells ring for the dead. Others say they ring to summon something older, something that once demanded sacrifice. A gravedigger once followed the sound, lantern in hand. He climbed the crooked steps into the nave. The pews were covered in dust, the altar blackened by fire. Yet the bells tolled above, shaking the walls. He climbed the tower, heart hammering with each step. At the top, he found no ropes, no clappers, only darkness and the faint stench of rot. Then he heard it, whispers, dozens of voices, chanting in a tongue that scraped his ears raw. When the lantern light touched the bells, he saw faces etched into the bronze, mouths open in endless screams. They moved, the metal writhed like flesh. And when the bells tolled again, the sound did not strike the air. It struck his chest, cracking his ribs, forcing the breath from his lungs. He staggered back, lantern falling, fire spilling across the wooden floor. The church burned that night, yet the bells did not melt. They hang there still, blackened and twisted, swaying in the wind that never touches the valley. And when they toll in the fog, every villager locks their doors, because they know the bells of Daggerford do not call the living. They call the next soul to join them. There is an inn on the coast, battered by salt and storm. Most rooms are safe, warm, and welcoming. But room 9 has been locked for decades. Guests who stayed there spoke of a mirror, a tall, cracked thing in a gilded frame, left behind by some long-dead aristocrat. Those who gazed into it swore they saw more than their reflection. Some saw themselves weeping, though their eyes were dry. Others saw shadows standing just behind them, tall and still. One woman screamed that she saw her own corpse lying on the floor. By dawn, she was dead. The innkeeper tried to remove it, but the mirror was heavier than stone. When he struck it with a hammer, the glass did not shatter. It bled dark, thick, and slow. The next day, his hammer lay rusted, and his eyes were gone. He had torn them out himself. Since then, the mirror waits in room 9, veiled by a sheet. The room is locked, the key thrown into the sea. Yet on stormy nights, when the tide slams against the cliffs, travelers say they hear a faint tapping against the window. Not from the outside, from the mirror itself, as if someone trapped within is begging to be let out. Some claim that if you stare too long at the glass, your reflection will blink when you do not. And once it does, it is no longer your reflection. It is something else, smiling with your teeth, waiting for you to step close enough so it may take your place. Of the Nameless King. On the edge of Blackmere lies a hill, crowned by a single stone. No inscription, no dates, only the weight of ages pressing down on the earth. The villagers call it the grave of the Nameless King. None remember his name. None wish to. They say he was a tyrant, one who demanded worship as if he were a god. His people rose against him, bound him in chains, and buried him alive beneath that stone. For 100 nights, they say. The ground shook with his screams. On the 100th night, it fell silent. But silence is not peace. Travelers who camp near the hill hear the earth shift beneath their blankets. They hear chains dragging in the soil, and if they remain too long, they dream of a face crowned, eyeless, mouth wide with hunger. A shepherd once struck the stone in jest. The next day, his flock was found slaughtered, their throats gnawed to the bone. The shepherd himself was gone, save for his staff, planted upright in the soil as if marking another grave. On the coldest nights, the hill breathes mist, and if you listen closely, you can hear a heartbeat beneath the earth. Slow, patient, waiting. The villagers say one day the stone will crack, and the nameless king will rise again. No longer bound by chains, no longer needing worship, only blood.